What's up, guys? Mason the Brock Henderson here. So, just gonna go ahead and say I won't be talking too much about all of the stuff going on, just because I know probably get into a lot of big debates and stuff. Here's my quick take on it, though. Is there any proof or any hint that Abramovich has done anything to help what's going on in the Ukraine? Is there any proof that he has helped Putin out in any way? Because if not, then why are we doing this whole say no to discrimination, and then as soon as this all comes out, suddenly now it's okay to discriminate as long as it's a Russian person? A Russian person, yes, he has ties to Putin, so obviously he's clearly helping Putin take over Ukraine. Is that really it? Just because he's been friends with him in the past and they've talked? Suddenly now he's clearly been helping him do all of this, right? That's my opinion on it. If there's proof that he's done something to help, then yeah, there should be some sanctions. But as it is, this is the government essentially saying it's okay to discriminate against Russian people because of what's going on in Russia. Even if they don't have anything to do with it, even if they are not the ones that set this in motion or they've done nothing to help, it's okay to discriminate against them. That's my take on it. And that's where I'm kind of pissed off. And especially because they're now essentially attacking the club, even though he was trying to sell it. It's not like they came in and said, hey, if you do sell this club, you have so long to sell it, and if you do sell it, you're not going to get any profit, or cutting the profit that he gets from selling it. They could have come in and said that, because he was looking to get rid of, he was looking to sell the club and move on for the betterment of the club, because he knew he's already dealt with so much racism against him and his time in England. He was like, you know what, I know this is not going to look good, I know people are going to come after me, so I'm just going to sell it, move on. And instead, it's like the government came in and said, oh, no, 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 no. No, not only can you not sell it for a profit, no, we're going to make sure your club suffers because you own it. How does that help anything? Really, how does that help anything? If anything, it'll end up pushing him hey, we know that, you probably have pride in your country. Well, guess what? Now we're going to push you into maybe doing something about that because we hate you so much now just because of where you come from. It's just, I don't know, it's so stupid to me. If you don't know your history, you're going to be doomed to repeat it. I'm pretty sure there was another leader who convinced his people that the world was against them a long time ago and set up for a huge war, and yet here we are doing it again. Basically convincing some of the people of this country that don't have anything to do with what's going on, suddenly just hating on them because of where they come from. How is that not going to reflect badly? So I'm sorry, I didn't mean to go into too much of a rant about it, but it's just really dumb. And I feel for the club. Honestly, until I see proof that Abramovich has actually done something wrong in this scenario, aside from being Russian, I'm going to feel bad for him too. Because I feel like he's being pressured into doing this because, like I said, he's already dealt with so many people in the past that have hated him from where he came, because of where he came from. This is not the first time. It's just now there's more of a reason because what Russia's doing right now is bad. And so now there's more of a reason to do something about it instead of just, oh, well, he's Russian, so we don't really like that here. So I don't know. For me, it's really stupid and it's hypocritical is what it is. So, but on to the football. It was an okay game today. It was perfectly fine. We should have won by more. It should have been a more convincing, especially based on how we started. It really should have been a more convincing scoreline. And it really should have felt more comfortable instead of, for about 30 minutes in the second half, that feeling of crap, we're about to give up, we're about to drop 2 points here. So yeah, I don't know. Part of it was Tuchel. I think, he gave some players a rest. I know Rudiger probably getting rested, which he has played a lot of games, but Christensen's just not going to be as good as him. Still don't have Alonso, so Saul is, I guess, right now the best option, which is kind of scary to think about. Out of the options that we have at left wing back, it's Saul, Sarr, and Kennedy. Kennedy's still a bit of an unknown. Sarr, we know where he stands after the game against Luton. And then Saul has just had a better performance recently. Like he's been working a bit harder, but he showed today he's still not cut out for the Premier League. So that's our best option though. So a little bit hindered, I think, on that left side. In the midfield, I know he's resting Conte because he said Conte was feeling a little something. And then the front three, I don't mind. You've got Mount and Werner up there to work hard with Havertz being the creative sort of influence. So it was all fine based on what it was. And then at halftime, with Spilicueta, whether he went out with something or whether Tuchel thought, I'm going to rest him for the weekend, that's the sub where we really started to struggle in the second half. So again, I don't know if this was Spilicueta. I know he's just returning from injury, so maybe they're keeping him 45 minutes right now. They don't want to play him a full 90 because he's still returning from that little injury he got. But yeah, him going out and Loftus-Cheek coming in really changed the game in the second half because they kind of overloaded that side a bit. And when Spilicueta was playing in the first half, he was able to help out Chalobah. In the second half, Loftus-Cheek, not really a wingback. He's decent defensively, but he doesn't really know where to position himself defensively on the wingback position. And so there were a few times that Chalobah got caught, isolated over there. So it affected the flow of the game, and it wasn't until Conte came in the midfield that we did start to get some more of that control back. Because for a lot of it, it felt like we were just kind of struggling to keep hold of the ball and actually make anything happen in the second half. So, but yeah, I mean, again, I know part of it is resting players, which Norwich is the team to rest against, especially Newcastle on the weekend. They're not that good, but they're better than Norwich. So if you're going to rest some of your better players, better to do it against Norwich than Newcastle. But I still feel like, we had Ziyech on the bench. I feel like he waited way too long to bring Conte into the mix. So I feel like there were some better options that he could have gone with. But for the most part, it is what it is. It's what he was stuck with today. So, and then talk about Atkinson real quick. Just not a good performance from him. Very one-sided. A lot of flops. A lot of I'm going to step in, I'm going to shove you, and then whenever you come and try to get the ball from me, I'm going to fall over. And Atkinson's like, all right, I got you, bud. Here's your foul. So a lot of that. And then for the handball, which, was it a handball? Like, honestly, that's the problem. From the angle that VAR was showing, I couldn't tell. It could have been. Like, it could very well have been a handball. But I'm watching, and it's hard to tell. Does it hit his knee or does it go past his knee and hit his arm? Because if it goes past the knee and hits his arm, yes, that's a handball. His arm is out. Perfectly fine. But from the angle Atkinson saw, how could you tell? And that's the problem. VAR showed him that one angle, and that was it. So it's kind of hard to tell from that angle which one it is, and yet he still feels comfortable enough to say, you know what? Yeah, I got that wrong in the run of play. That's a penalty. Really? And I'm not saying that, the referees were paid off or anything, but it does feel like there's a campaign against us right now, with everything going on with Abramovich too. But then you look at all these little calls that are going against us, the offside against Lukaku, but then Mane and whoever it was against, I think Mahrez for Man City, both of them in a very similar position where it looks like they're leaning just ahead of the defender, and yet only Lukaku is called offside. So just these little things that I have to look at VAR and say, okay, is there a bias there? Is there a bias from the referees where they just go into the game, maybe this one is not so much that it's Chelsea, it's more so just, you know what? Let's make it interesting. Let's give them a penalty so that way they have a route back into the game. I don't know. But in my opinion, again, I couldn't tell if that was a handball because it looks more like it comes off the knee from that angle. So just frustrating with that, and then frustrating again with Atkinson just in the overall run of play. It felt like it was very soft fouls that were being given Norwich's way. Anyways, on to individuals. Mendy, okay today. Penalty again. He just not very good at reading it. Completely guessed the wrong way, which it was comfortably tucked away in the corner, so I'm not expecting him to save it. But it's just really frustrating that he guesses a lot, and he often guesses wrong too. And again, because of how good he is with his reactions and his physical ability, I don't understand why they don't instruct him, hey, don't guess, wait, prepare yourself, and then just see if you can get to it. And if they tuck it away well, then, good for them. But sometimes they're not the best penalties, and I feel like if he hadn't guessed the wrong way, he could have gotten there. Today was not an example of that, but just something that I've noticed. And then also with his feet, there were a couple times that a little shaky, which he's had issues with in the past. So those are really the only two things that I noticed for him today. The back three, most of them were fine in the first half, and then second half, a little bit more shaky. Christensen of the three was the weakest today, which, I mean, I've had my issues with him. And again, I don't see him becoming the defender that I think a lot of people wanted him to be. A lot of people lauding him as the next John Terry, and a lot of that was because he came out of the academy, and so people were like, oh yes, he's going to become that John Terry for us, but I just don't see it. I don't see the reading of the play. His positioning is off more often than not, and it just feels like he's not really, because his positioning is so bad and he's not really fast enough. It feels like too often he's getting beaten behind, and most teams will look to do that against you, especially when you're a club like Chelsea. They're going to pack it in and try to look over top and get in behind you. And Christensen, unfortunately, is very liable against that. So I just don't see him being a good defender for us. He'll probably be fine if he goes somewhere else. If he goes to a team where they just pack it in a bit more and they don't look to try to press high and teams don't look to try to knock it over him, I'm sure it would be a lot better. But here, I just feel like we play in a certain way that he doesn't fit very well whenever teams play against us. So that's unfortunate for him. Silva was perfectly fine today. No real problems, which I never really have any issues with his play. So, and then Chalobah, a couple of times, and I do think, again, it was more so down to the fact that Loftus-Cheek wasn't really helping him defensively, but there were times when he got caught very isolated. He didn't have help around him, and unfortunately, he's still a little young, so he's still figuring out what to do in those situations, and just times where he's diving in and getting beat too easily. So hopefully he can learn from those situations, and again, hopefully we get James back soon from the little injury he got, and hopefully Spilicueta is fully fit soon, because we need, honestly, I kind of want to see us go to a back four until we get James and Chilwell back, or at least Alonso back, because he's not a fullback, but where we are right now, we're playing with guys that are not wingbacks in the wingback positions, and they're not even wings either. Saul is more of a midfielder. Loftus-Cheek is more of a midfielder. Why are we going with him as wings when we have wings on the bench? But, anyways, into the midfield. Jorginho was Jorginho. Slow, dull, giving the ball away too much. Somehow not getting subbed off over Kovacic. Make it make sense to me. He was giving the ball away constantly. He was getting beat constantly. Kovacic was trying to make things happen, winning the ball back, getting on the ball, turning, trying to find a pass. So let's sub off that guy. I'll never understand it. I really won't. Like earlier this season, whenever it was Jorginho was playing okay and Kovacic couldn't get a touch, it was always Kovacic would stay on and Jorginho would get subbed off. Thinking, okay, why? Kovacic is just shit in the bed for us constantly. Why is he not getting subbed off? Now the roles have switched, and so now Tuchel will pull off the other one. I don't get it. Like, is it because Kovacic is working so hard that he feels like he needs a break? Is that what it is? Because that doesn't make any sense. He can still go for another 10 minutes. When the sub happened, there was only 10 left. So he can go for another 10 minutes. If you're looking to rest him, you waited too long to do that. So it's not like you're saving him for the weekend. You're pulling him out because you want to bring in Conte to affect the midfield more. That's fine, but you took off the one midfielder that was affecting it the most. Jorginho was affecting it for Norwich more than us. So why wouldn't you take off the one that's giving the game to the other team? I don't get that. Like, I really don't understand why Tuchel does it, but it always feels like whatever player of the two in the midfield, whichever one I look at and I go, he's the one that needs to stay on because he's making things happen and the other one needs to go off, Tuchel almost 90% of the time will pull off the guy that's been working his butt off and making things happen in the midfield. The other guy just stays on and gets to continue to do exactly what he's doing all game. And that's exactly what happened today. So I don't get it. I don't understand what Tuchel sees that I'm missing. But, Jorginho is just too slow today. It's one of those performances where Norwich in the first half weren't really pressing us, weren't giving us too much of an issue, so he wasn't really hurting us that much. Second half, they stepped up the pressure, more pace in the midfield. Now all of a sudden, Jorginho's giving the game away. Jorginho's giving the ball away. He's getting beat. He's having to foul the guy because he can't keep up with him. I mean, it's just so obvious to me, and yet he played the full 90. And again, Kovacic, not fantastic, not as good as he was in some of the previous games, but still our best midfielder today. Still the one that was making things happen and trying to affect the game positively for us. So I don't know. If Tuchel could watch this video and give me an answer, I would love it. Because I would love to know what's going on in that little brain of his. Wingbacks, I mean, Saul, I've already talked about a bit, but yeah, just not good enough still. And today was another good example. He's too slow. He's not good enough on the ball. He's just not a good enough player for the Premier League. Now, granted, again, I think he's the best option we have over Kennedy and Sarr. But that shows you how bad Kennedy and Sarr are. Now, granted, I want to see more from Kennedy. I want to see more from what he can give us on the attacking side of the ball, but I don't want to see it in this game when Christensen's behind him because, again, it's very similar to what happened against Luton where it was Kennedy and Sarr. Those are two not great defensive players. I want to see Kennedy whenever he's got Rudiger behind him, and Rudiger can clean up for him and be the defensive just bully that he is. But yeah, so Saul today, though, just first half, he was decent in the first half. He did okay in the first half. Second half, he was awful. I mean, honestly, a lot of Norwich's best chances came down that left side. Granted, coming down both sides because, again, they were isolating Chalba a lot, but their best chances, like the best created chances, came down the right side because they would just get in behind Saul. Christensen's too slow to really defend one-on-one against anybody, and so it was just very easy for him to knock it down, try to make something happen, and then thankfully they couldn't get past Silva. So, frustrating there. Spilicueta, again, his subbing off at the halftime is what really changed the game negatively for us because he's just such a hard worker. Again, on the ball, in the attack, he's not the greatest player. I get that. But you just look at what he does in the final third, all of the runs he makes, how much movement he has, and then he gets back and defends as well. Again, one of the things that's going to piss me off the most about this whole sanction BS is if they don't give us control back before the end of the season, and then we lose Spilicueta because of that. Now, granted, I've heard that they were going to let him go anyway. If that's the case, then I'm going to be more mad at whoever decides to let him go, because just look at what he still does. Look at the impact he has on the game. He's still one of our best players. So if it's the government, the UK government that causes us to lose Spilicueta, then obviously I'll be pissed at them. If they do eventually give us back control, whatever happens, whether they just wise up and realize, okay, wait a minute, maybe we're going too far, maybe this is a little too much like a dictatorship, or whether, Abramovich does finally just sell it to somebody and then they give us control back or whatever. If somebody at the club does not look at these performances from Spilicueta and say, we need to keep a hold of him, then really they need to be fired because it's so dumb not to keep a player of his quality. And it's not like he's super old. With Silva, you can make the argument, well, in a year now, he's going to finally drop off. Spilicueta, he's still, 32, 33? So he's still got a few more years in him at least. And even if he's not going to be able to go up and down the line as much, he's still very useful in the back three with his one-on-one defending. So he's just a player we need to keep a hold of. And again, if they don't, then they're stupid. And then to the front three, Mount, I think, was probably our best player today overall, just because his work rate never dropped. He kept working in the first half, and the second half, even when things were not going our way, even when we were not keeping a hold of the ball that much, he was still our most influential player during that time as well. So he's just one of those players. And again, I know people have been complaining about him. I mean, I've had my issues with him too because of the lack of finishing, those very clear missed chances against Liverpool. It's bad, but his work rate off the ball, his work rate on the ball, outside of the final third, so much of what he brings to the game affects the play for everybody else. The players around him benefit. So I just think he's one of those players that you can't drop him because of that. You got to let him affect the play. So, and then Werner's very similar. When he's on the ball, he's not really doing a whole lot. He's not the greatest but his work rate off the ball is just fantastic. And a lot of, you watch the highlights in the first half, and a lot of our best chances, you watch Werner and he's making a great run that's drawing two or three defenders with him, and it's now opened up space for Havertz to do something. So that's what he brings. I don't know why that's not more apparent to Tuchel, but that's what he does well. His runs just affect so much around the field. So I still don't really get why we continue to try to utilize him going deeper and getting the ball deeper and trying to make something happen. And then also why we don't see him more often alongside Havertz and Mount, or Pulisic and Mount, something along those lines, just so we can see somebody who's going to make those striker runs in a way that's going to make the defense go, oh crap, we got to watch him. And now all of a sudden somebody else is making a run into the space that he just, vacated. But second half, I will say for Werner, though, there was a drop off. And I don't know how much of it was just legs. I don't know how much of it was morale. Because honestly, it looked like there were a few heads that dropped in the second half because we weren't really keeping a lot of possession. I think some players got frustrated with that. Werner's not typically one of those players, but he definitely seemed to have a couple of those moments today where I'm thinking, this is you. You're in space, run. This is what you do well. You get on the ball and you run and you go past the defense. It felt like he wasn't really pushing himself today. It felt like he wasn't really excelling in the pace department. So I don't know what that was about. Whether he's holding back because he's worried about injury, or whether he was getting tired by the end of the game. But whatever the case, definitely saw a drop off in the second half, but not as much, in my opinion, as the drop off that we saw for Havertz. Havertz in the first half was great. Looked to get on the ball a lot, made things happen. But second half, just completely anonymous until he scored. There were so many times that I'm just thinking, Havertz, we need you. Havertz, we need you to do something. Havertz, we need you to get on the ball. Havertz, we need you to keep possession here. It just felt like he wasn't really moving for us. He wasn't really giving us any options. And again, I do think that affected Werner's play a bit. Because Werner is somebody that he'll make a run off of you to draw defenders to him and open up space for you. But when Havertz doesn't move, it's harder for Werner to move off of somebody who's stagnant. So I just feel like both of them, they really dropped off. But Havertz, for me, was the bigger drop off because I just felt like he didn't give us really anything until that ball across from Conte and then he scores. So I hope it's not something that he has these inconsistent performances. He has these moments where he's suddenly not working hard, because we already have one that does that in Lukaku. So we don't need another player that's going to start standing up top and not moving and not giving us any options. Into the substitutes, Loftus-Cheek again. I don't think he's a wingback, so kind of hard to blame him for his his mistakes in the second half. The moments where he got caught out or wasn't really giving us much. He's just not that player. And I know he is versatile, so he can play in multiple locations. He's good on the ball, so it's good to get him the ball out wide and see if he can do anything. But he's just not quite the same when he's out there. He's not able to get on the ball as much. He's not able to use his pace and strength as much as he can in the midfield. So I just feel like he wasn't really helped there. And again, positionally, I don't think he knows how to play that position defensively, which, again, hurt us a lot whenever they were attacking down that side with Rashica. And then the last two subs, I think way too late. I don't know why we waited so long to make these, because they changed the game. Suddenly now we were in control. Conte came on for Kovacic and then Lukaku for Werner. Probably would have liked to see Lukaku for Havertz based on performances in the second half, because again, I felt like Havertz was just giving us nothing. But I mean, for what it's worth, I guess it did work out okay because Havertz was able to drop a bit deeper and get on the ball. Since Lukaku was more the target man in the second half. And then Conte, Conte was Conte when he came on. He looked a lot more like himself, quickly turning out of challenges, winning the ball back well. In the final third, he's not normally that great, but the pass across was very well done. I don't know if he was looking for Lukaku or Havertz, but whatever the case, it worked out well. Havertz, found the corner. And Lukaku, I did see a couple moments from him that gave me hope that maybe, just maybe, he could give us something off the bench. but I'm still not. I mean, I'm not watching him going, oh, he's a different player now. Like, he's still very much waiting for the game to come to him. It was just a couple of his runs looked a bit more intelligent and less lazy, I guess. The two that I can think of, one of them, he was peeling off to the backside of the defender, which is, again, I don't like that run. But then he changed it the last second. It was Loftus-Cheek's cross to him. He did a good job of disguising that, making it seem like, okay, I'm just going to run behind you like I always do, and then cutting in front of him. Now, granted, I don't think he really got to the ball as quick as he should have, which gave the defender time to block the shot. But that run was better. It was more what I want to see out of him. I don't want to see him go hide behind the defender. And then the other one for me was one of the defenders, I don't remember who, picks up the ball. And Lukaku, not the closest man, not the closest Chelsea player to the defender with the ball, still worked to get across and try to block the clearance, which is not something I'm used to seeing him do. So those two moments for me just gave me a little bit of hope that maybe he could do something, but overall, I'm still not wanting to see Lukaku play. I'm not wanting to see him get on the field. Now, if he comes off the bench and does something fantastic, if he comes on and changes the game for us, then absolutely, I want to see him start and I want to see if he can continue that run. But on the whole, if you look at all of his performances, the average is still, he's very lazy, he doesn't give us enough. I would rather see a front three without a striker than a front three including Lukaku at the moment. So that's just where I am on that. But yeah, so all in all, that's about it. Yeah, don't really have much else to say, but let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. If you're offended by my opinions of what they're doing to Abramovich, I'm not sorry. They're my opinions. But, I mean, it is what it is. They're discriminating against him just because he has ties to Putin. And that's about it. You know, there's not a whole lot of evidence that he's done anything to help with this war that Putin started with Ukraine. There's no real evidence that he's come out in support of it, that he agrees with what Putin is doing, but they are not taking any of that into account. They're using this as a moment to say, oh, we can stand up for Ukraine by hating on this Russian guy. And that's, in my opinion, that makes the situation worse. Because that's basically racism. It's discrimination against somebody because of their nationality. That is racism. So that's my opinion on it. Again, if you have a different opinion, it's fine. You can have your own opinion on it. Whatever. But the fact of the matter is, we are seriously suffering right now because of what they've done. And in my opinion, I don't think that's right. I don't think it's right to make the club suffer and the fans and the players and the coaching staff, make all of these people suffer because you want to get back at one man. And you're not even getting back at him. You're getting back at somebody who comes from the same country that one man rules. That's just dumb. But yeah, if you want to talk about your opinions, that's fine. Just know if you have a lot of disagreements, if you don't have any good points to back them up, then I'm probably just going to ignore you, because it's what trolls do on the internet. They just like to tell somebody why they're wrong without actually telling them why they're wrong. So that's just how I feel about it. But yeah, if you have any thoughts about the game, though, I'd gladly discuss that with you. So let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. Leave a like and subscribe for future Chelsea reviews, because I'm sticking around. I don't know what all this BS is about, oh, Chelsea fans are just going to change their loyalty. Right. Forgot, because we're all so plastic. Duh. But yeah, I'm sticking around for the long haul, so we'll see where this journey takes us next. But see you guys in the next one. Peace out.